Friends of Tom's who knew him before he was fully brainwashed say he was a great guy. Fans have been enthralled by Hollywood star Tom Cruise for decades thanks to his magnetic personality and amazing playing skills. Tom Cruise has been a film icon for decades with his exciting Mission Impossible and famous roles in Top Gun. But his personal and work problems, which have been the main focus of the last few years, have taken away from his once brilliant start. We're making movies in Hollywood right now because of you. Their trust in us and our work is strong. Tom Cruise, the star who used to be unbeatable, is said to be having health issues, money issues, and a market that is always changing. Is this going to make him fall even further? The bright climb. Hollywood has made Tom Cruise's rapid rise to fame look like magic. He had a hard childhood because his parents got divorced and had money problems after he was born in Syracuse, New York in 1962. He became famous, though, because he worked hard to get ahead. Endless Love, which came out when he was 19, was his first movie role, but it was 1983's Risky Business that really got his career going. Because of the movie's classic scenes and Cruise's great performance, he became a household name quickly. In the 1980s, Cruise had a great time as the face of the movie age. In Top Gun and other movies, he played the brash but charismatic fighter pilot Pete Maverick Mitchell, which showed how good an actor he was. The movie made him famous and turned into a culture phenomenon. After that, he played the lead role in The Color of Money, which placed him and Paul Newman in the running for Best Actor. It was the late 1990s, and he was known for becoming more than just an actress. However, this amazing climb came at a price. Being famous put a lot of stress on Cruise's personal life, which led to problems that would help shape his work. As his career reached its peak, the pressure to live up to his image as Hollywood's leading man became a bigger problem. Cruise had an amazing work path that showed how talented and determined he was. He often spent months getting ready for each part, going to great lengths for his acting jobs. This level of dedication, while impressive, set the stage for the high expectations that came next. There was about to be a dark side to the typically unstable movie business. Will he be able to keep up this level of success without losing himself in it? A tough personal life as Cruise's career grew. More and more people became interested in his personal life. Even though they were one of Hollywood's golden couples, his marriage to actor Nicole Kidman was not easy. Fans were shocked when they split up in public in 2001, which led a lot of people to guess why they broke up. The media frenzy that followed their breakup made Cruise look worse, and many people thought that his Scientology views were a big reason why they had such a hard time with their marriage. After his marriage to Kidman, Cruise's relationship with Katie Holmes wowed everyone all over again. After a short courtship, they got married in front of a lot of people, and they had a girl named Suri. The relationship ended quickly, though. When Holmes decided to get a divorce in 2012, the claims that Cruise was controlling and that Scientology had hurt his relationships came up again. His personal problems took a backseat to his work successes as they happened. Cruise, who used to be famous, became the subject of rumors in tabloids and was often portrayed as the bad guy in his own story. He felt the heavy weight of public opinion on him as headline after headline tore away at his carefully crafted character. His business took a hit because his relationships were not stable. The tabloids used Cruise's personal life as a hook, which was bad for his image. Even though he tried hard to focus, the constant observation took his attention away from his work. People became less interested in his movies, as both fans and critics began to see them through the lens of his troubled personal life. How much longer could Cruise take? His job is hard, and his personal life is also having problems. More worries about how safe the financial markets are. Even though Cruise kept doing well at the box office, his finances started to change in a big way. The actor who used to be steady started having problems that no one saw coming. There were reports that his most recent projects went way over budget and didn't make much money. Because the industry depends so much on blockbuster titles, any mistake could be very bad for Cruise's finances. Things quickly got worse when people with knowledge of the situation said that the costs of making his movie were through the roof. For example, Mina's work made people in the business world angry. Insiders because of multiple delays and cost overruns. People were interested in whether Cruise was still a marketable star, even though his name continued to get people excited. The switch to streaming services has made things even more confused, as many movies that used to be big hits aren't getting as many viewers online as they did in theaters. Not only did Cruise have money problems, but his lavish lifestyle was also criticized. Some people were worried about his financial security because he liked to spend a lot of money on expensive things like private jets and homes that cost millions of dollars. From all the news stories about his expensive trips and gifts to his family and friends, it seemed like the man was living the high life. People were afraid that Cruise wouldn't be able to handle the money problems that came with his flashy public image. His finances were already bad, and the rising costs of making movies with famous people in them made things even worse. As audiences' tastes and funds changed, Cruz had to keep a tight grip on things. The star power that had helped his career so far was now being used against him, and the fact that box office returns were hard to predict made things even less certain. People said that Cruz was losing control of the business world that he used to run because he kept having setbacks. Financial analysts started to guess about what would happen to his career in the long run because they were worried that he might not be able to get back his losses and keep living the way he was. Worries about losing his followers and the thought of a life without being loved by them were frightening. Cruz was seeing the very thing he had worked so hard to achieve fall apart right in front of his eyes. A meeting of different times. Cruz was dealing with ongoing cash problems at the same time that Hollywood was changing right in front of his eyes. As actors besides Cruz became more well-known, fans of the late greats started to watch them. Cruz started to feel the heat from a business that was changing so quickly, with new stars like Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet becoming popular. He had been successful with the movie model in the past, but when streaming platforms came out, traditional stars like him had to change the way they did things. As studios focused on making movies for digital platforms, critics began to wonder if Cruz's successful recipe was going out of style. The movie business as a whole was going through big changes, and Cruz's reliance on expensive blockbusters seemed to be getting riskier. Many changes were being made to make the company more diverse and welcoming, but new stars were already making it hard for old stars to keep up. As people's taste changed, it became harder for Hollywood stars like Tom Cruise to find their own niches. Cruz made his name playing stereotypical characters in popular movies. Apart from having to compete with younger stars, he also had to show that he could still write new and interesting scripts. Because so many people use social media, viewers can choose from a lot of different types of material. Like many other stars, Cruz was having an identity problem as he tried to stay popular while fans flocked to younger, friendlier stars. A lot of people wondered if Cruz could make it in the tough Hollywood business and even do well. In order to get back on his feet, Cruz looked for non-traditional parts that would show off his acting skills. He began looking for roles that were different from what he usually did to surprise his fans and show that he could play many types of people. Still, he had to answer the question, could he change with the times by rethinking who he was? How will this shift in how people of different generations act affect Cruz's permanent impression? The real health problems that people don't see. As the stress of fame and business began to build, worries about Cruz's health became clearer. Cruz seemed to have paid a price for his well-known dedication to health and exercise. Reports said he was tired and might have burned out from keeping up with his strict fitness routines and busy filming plans. People close to him and at work began to worry about him because they saw his need to be perfect as a possible threat. As a result of living in a culture that often puts achievement ahead of mental and physical health, Cruz may be at her breaking point. It was amazing how often he pulled off his own stunts, but it made you wonder if he would be able to stay in the business for long. Cruz seemed strong and healthy on TV, but he actually had health problems. But as time went on, it became harder to ignore how his strict lifestyle was slowly killing him. He allegedly worked out hard all the time to keep his shape, and he got hurt while doing stunts. His friends were worried that there might be bad things that happened because he was determined to stay an action star. Because of how hard his job was, his mental health began to get worse as well. Being in the public eye all the time got too much for Cruz to handle as he tried to balance shooting with his own problems. He struggled with loneliness and fear in his personal life, which made him wonder if the things he was giving up to be perfect were worth his health. Cruz kept the public from seeing how weak he was, which is rare in a field that often praises toughness and resilience. Some people started to say bad things about his health, though. When he looked deeper, he found that he was fighting an inner war that was scarier than any TV or movie villain. As the stress level kept going up and people talked about how much longer he could keep up this level of success, worries about his future became even more common. Cruz, who was being watched all the time, chose to keep going. Because he thought his body was the key to his success, he put his job ahead of his health more than once. There was still no clear answer, but the business would be badly affected if he left. Cruz's lawyers worked hard to keep the story about his health under control. They played down rumors that he was going to quit and talked about how dedicated he was to his job, but it was clear that tension was building. His future has been a secret, which has led fans and people in the business to guess. As word spread that Cruz might be leaving, his old co-workers came together to support him and tell him to focus on his health first. He used to be very stressed out about the movie business, but over time, it turned into a network of people who were there to help him and give him chances to show off his skills in other ways. But the look into it never stopped. The media stopped talking about his work and started talking about his health problems instead. This made it so that everyone was watching everything he did. Concern from both fans and reviewers led to heated arguments about whether it was moral to expect stars to perform at a high level while ignoring their health. If a big Hollywood star retired, what would that mean for the rest of the business? What happens when people argue? Cruise's ties to Scientology have caused trouble throughout his career. Some people are questioning the church's ways and how much power it has over those who follow it because of his defense of it. The way people felt about Cruise changed along with how they felt about Scientology. The news stories that were negative about the church were making his already heavy load even heavier. Because Scientology was shown in negative light in high-profile exposes and documentaries, Cruise's links to the group were looked into more. People who used to respect him began to question how wise he was and how his beliefs affected his work and personal life. Cruise's public image got involved with this case, which made people worry about his ability to separate himself from the group while still maintaining his star power. With each new piece of information, Cruise had to deal with the outcomes of the choices he made as the plot moved further away from his accomplishments. After these incidents, Cruise tried to change the subject. During interviews, he talked about how much he loved playing and how he wanted to make work that mattered. This showed how dedicated he was to the field. When he tried to shift the focus to his work achievements, the questions about his views got in the way. Cruise knew he had to deal with these issues head-on when public opinion began to change. He hoped to connect with his audience more deeply by talking about his life as an actor and as a person. But as he made his way through this dangerous environment, the eternal question kept coming back to him. Would his time in Scientology define him, or would he be able to fully get out from under its shadow? Cruise had a great image up until now, but his ties to Scientology may have finally ruined it. To try to turn things around. In the middle of all the trouble and health worries, Tom Cruise took a chance and tried to make a comeback, which changed his reputation. When he said he was making a new Mission Impossible movie, he told fans that he would get back to the exciting thrillers that made him famous. The marketing plan for the movie tried to get his fans interested again by showing how relevant the series is in a business world that is always changing. But there was a bit of worry in the air. Will Cruise be able to do even better than in his previous movies, or will this one let him down? The excitement about the publishing date grew. People were on the edge of their seats, eager to see if their hero could reclaim his title as the king of action movies. Cruise trained for the movie for a very long time, doing a lot of hard physical work and practicing a lot of stunts. He worked hard and spent a lot of time making sure every trick was perfect. Everyone was looking at him because he promised to show how charming he is and how charismatic his performance is. But as the shoot went on, more and more problems came up. One of the many hidden problems that production had to solve was how to keep things safe and organized. Because each movie in the series was so high octane, there was a lot of pressure to make fun of things. As Cruise overcame these problems, worries about his health and stamina came back, making many people wonder if he was up to the job. In this time of chaos, Cruise started to answer his critics, addressing their fears about his health and his beliefs. His more thoughtful talks showed that he knew he was wrong and promised to learn from them. This change in plan showed that he was still committed to being himself, even though his public image was putting pressure on him. Will this return be the turning point that makes his reputation last, or will it be the start of his downfall? The first release of Atonement. The first episode of Mission Impossible was coming up soon, and everyone was excited. To see Cruise and his co-stars, there were a lot of fans on the red carpet. There were a lot of cameras and questions from the reporters at the scene. This was Cruise's chance to show everyone they were wrong about his future and get back into the spotlight. As soon as the movie started, viewers were given to a spectacular show of high-octane action and amazing feats. Critics praised Cruise's newfound energy, which made people think of his older work. The movie's success seemed to solidify his role as a leading man, which led to talk about the future of the franchise and the chance of more movies in the series. But even with the cheers, the memories of crimes from the past were still very strong. There were still people who didn't believe that this win would change Cruise's career story. Is it possible that making one good movie will set all of his doubts about his life and views to rest? At the lively after-party, both movie fans and professionals praised the movie's success. When Cruise spoke to the crowd from the stage, he thanked them for their support over the years. It was a small win and a break from all the problems he had been having. But even in the glory of victory, the burning question wouldn't go away. Was this just a short-term victory in a long battle for forgiveness? A lot of people in the crowd seemed moved by Cruise's emotional speech. It was clear that he was having a hard time, and he thanked God for giving him the chance to play Hollywood again. Because he was honest, his supporters began to rally around him again, and more people became interested in his story. Was this finally Cruise's big break? Or was this just a short break in a long fight? What comes next, and some thoughts. People had different thoughts about the movie after it came out. While critics were wary, fans loved Tom Cruise's return. People had different thoughts about the movie. Some saw it as the star's successful comeback. Some saw it as a chance to heal old scars, though. Cruise was very aware of how closely people were watching him, and he knew that things were only going to get worse. From the movie's box office earnings, it was clear that it had done well at the box office, which added to Cruise's fame in Hollywood. Regardless, the question of lifespan was important. Could he keep making hit movies, or would the stress of being famous get to him again? It was a busy time for Cruise, so he took a moment to think about his trip. He knew what was going to happen would be hard. To be forgiven, you would need to be strong and able to change. What would be the constantly changing business world, the ongoing personal problems, and the constant media attention? Cruise asked him about both his bond with his fans and the way he acts. Being approachable was very important to him, so he jumped at any chance to talk to people outside of the red carpet. As he opened up about more of his personal journey, his fans connected with how vulnerable he was. This change showed that he was trying to connect with her on a deeper level, going beyond the carefully crafted persona that had shaped most of his work. Cruise has also thought about what kind of mark he wants to make based on his work so far. He knew it was important to help young artists get started, so he started paying for their jobs as actors and filmmakers. Sharing his knowledge and experiences with others was meant to make them feel welcome and encourage them to come up with new ideas and work together. Could this recent success be the start of a long-term trend for the better? Cruise set out to find new opportunities with a renewed sense of purpose in pursuing future projects. In his announcement, he talked about his work on Mission Impossible, as well as his plans to work with new filmmakers and be in independent projects. With this change, he broke away from the winning pattern that had been the norm for most of his career. As Cruise went into unknown territory, people began to wonder what drove him. He seemed to be responding to how Hollywood was changing, or was he trying to start over? He wanted to stay important no matter what. Because his field had changed so much, he was ready to take chances and adapt. A lot of people were interested in Cruise's choice to work on separate projects, which led to discussions about what fame means today. Fans began to wonder if they would see a more complex version of Cruise in his future projects as he continued to show how versatile and deep he was in different parts. Working with less well-known filmmakers was another sign that they were willing to explore personal and intimate themes. In this way, Cruise wanted to show that he wasn't just an action star but could also do well in other types of movies. Amid his exploration of these new paths, he couldn't help but wonder if his fans would like his new style or stick with his past accomplishments. In addition to working on movies, Cruise began to explore the opportunities of TV, a medium that was quickly catching up to movies in terms of story and production value. He was able to talk about topics that were important to current audiences and go into more detail about how characters changed because he was in a limited series. When people look at Tom Cruise, will this new part of his job change how they see him? Why social media is important? Tom Cruise knew he had to change how he talked to fans in this age of social media. He saw that social media had a lot of promise and began to use it to get to know the people who followed him on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter better. It was planned he made this change to counter the negative rumors going around about him and make himself seem friendlier to the public at the same time. Because Cruise gave us so many interesting details about his life. In order to show his weaker and funnier side, he began posting more honest photos and videos online. That change made both his image and the audience's view of him better. His honest act brought back a sense of community that had been missing during those rough years, and his fans were thankful. When Cruise used social media, she met people who liked her and people who didn't like her. Some people liked that he tried to connect with his friends, but others didn't believe he was real. One of the hardest things for Cruise in the age of the internet was keeping his word while also trying to win people's approval. Cruise started to talk to his enemies directly and also started to tell personal stories. He was talked to about things like mental health, perseverance, and how important it is to keep going when things get tough. Fans were touched when he talked about his problems because it showed them a more honest side of the famous person they had long admired. Because Cruise used social media all the time, he was able to make the story about him. He connected with his audience in a way that made them feel like they belonged and were a part of his journey. By offering the chance for positive discourse, he was able to fight negativity and build a better relationship with his audience. How will Cruise, who has to deal with both his public image and his own problems, get through this uncharted territory? The media circus of the cosmos? A lot of people were still interested in Tom Cruise even after he tried to talk to his fans. The tabloids would bring up old grudges and stories whenever there was a new project. Cruise felt open and weak as the constant attention began to wear him down. Cruise tried to get back in charge of his story while the press followed him around. He knew how important it was to be honest and open in a time when a single tweet could change people's minds. He began being honest and talks about his flaws and his desire to get better at them. Still, it was hard to stay away from the never-ending stream of news tales. Because the media was so interested in his personal life, they often ignored his professional accomplishments, making it seem like they cared more about making news than telling the truth. It didn't matter how hard he tried to change the subject, the issues of the past kept coming up. Cruise made it clear at news conferences that he didn't like how the media were covering him. It was clear that he wanted to change the story. But in a world where scandals were more common than wins, it was getting harder and harder for him to do it. The business world was harsh, and people were paying more attention to him than ever as he tried to change. As the media circus surrounded Cruise, he began to think about fame and what it really means. He knew that being in the center meant giving up some things, but also gave him a lot of great opportunities. His mental health got worse because he was always under pressure to prove himself and give an idealized picture of himself. He learned a lot about how important it is for actors to advocate for mental health by using his stage to bring attention to the problems actors face and the need for a caring community. He wants to get his story back, but will the media's relentless chase of him stop him, or will it lead to long-term change? Final battle. Tom Cruise was facing a turning point in his career as he continued to deal with the stresses of being a star. His most recent book, a high-stakes thriller, came out at a time that would either cement his reputation or mark the beginning of his downfall. People were very excited because they didn't know if the movie would finally bring them the return they had been waiting for. Cruise did everything he could to promote the movie in the weeks before it came out, from going to interviews to talking to fans on social media. It was very clear what was at stake, and there was a lot of expectation. He was once again praised by reviewers, and they were ready to give their opinion on his performance. On the night of the opening, the theater was packed with excited people. I can't wait for Tom Cruise's next big movie. The actor's commitment to his job was clear from how intensely the movie played out. What people thought, though, was all over the place when the credits rolled. Some people liked the idea of going back to old ways, but others weren't so sure. A lot of online groups got very angry about how people felt about the movie. A lot of people who saw the movie had strong feelings about it. Some people didn't like Cruise, while others didn't like the idea or the pace. Because of the different views, Cruise was in a tough spot. He had to accept that popular opinion could change at any time, no matter what he did. After the movie came out, it made waves in the business that didn't go away until the dust settled. Some people in the know wondered if Cruise's star power was waning because the movie did well at the box office but nothing special. After the movie did well at the box office, many people started to wonder if he would be able to adapt to the changing Hollywood scene or if he was just having a hard time. Even though Cruise was criticized, he didn't care and kept working hard at his job. He began to look for new opportunities and hoped to work with innovative directors who were changing the rules in the story. Being willing to try new things and see things from different points of view was a turning point in his work, as he wanted to improve his drawing skills. Tom Cruise's journey through the dangerous seas of Hollywood shows how complicated fame can be. People can still get better and start over, even though there are still problems. What do you think will happen with Tom Cruise's career? Leave your ideas in the section below, and stay tuned for our next video.